We are the Vaka crew, and this is our sailboat, a James Warren sailing canoe that we will be sailing all the way from the Philippines to the Solomon Islands. Our goal is to train, equip, and inspire young Solomon Islanders to reach out to isolated communities with the love of Jesus through community development and training. In the last episode, we were faced with some serious engine problems, and our departure seemed doubtful. But we persevered, and in the right timing, everything came together. Immediately, we set sail from Davao in the Philippines towards Indonesia. We had barely sailed the boat together, but we had faith that God would help us through. We had great conditions for our voyage south, and we arrived after a week of sailing. The first hurdle was overcome, but now came what Evind feared the most.
So after 1 week of sailing from the Philippines, we finally arrive in Indonesia in the port of Bitung.
We heard a lot of stories about Indonesia. We heard that they are so strict and no, there's rumors.
Oh no!
Okay, pull it up.
Anchor's caught on some sort of hook. Good job.
Okay. Soon, you ready to drop?
Yeah, we can see the bottom here. We can see the bottom.
How much rope do you want?
How much rope?
It's 5 to 10 meters. Go. All right.
Good job.
That was a bit more crowded than what we're used to.
Out of the blue, like the first thing that happens when we arrive there is two boys jump on our boat, and the guy who spoke English, he was like, "Oh yeah, I'm gonna help you check in." So he decides he's gonna help us check in. I was skeptical at first, but then I'm like, well, we need his help, and we go with him to immigration, and he helps us start the check-in process.
What are we doing?
Everyone's laughing at us.
Woohoo! Land!
Yep, this is Bitung. It feels like I'm drunk.
First time on land in 8 days.
8 days.
Password to get my email to get the visa. So we have to wait till tomorrow morning. One more
day. Customs come on our boat, they check out what we have. The officials are so nice. They're so understanding, so helpful. And we're able to check into Indonesia and do the immigration the next day when we have all the paperwork in order.
You guys are officially now checked into Indonesia.
Oh. Yeah.
Let's go.
Legally on land.
Huh? We did it! It's official! We are finally checked into Indonesia with my local friend here, Udin. He's been helping us get from office to office. And 24 hours from we arrived until we are officially cleared into the country. 24 hours, that's how long it takes. Customs guys came out to inspect our vessel. They could have found a lot of problems if they wanted to, but they were just stoked to be on here. They were like, "You came all the way from the Philippines in that? Oh, you are very brave." You are very brave. They were fascinated, and it's so fun when you have people like that who are fascinated by what you're doing and not trying to put a stopper to what you're doing. Let me see some woohoos. We have mixed experiences here, but we are checked in and we are leaving tomorrow. Ready to go to PNG. Here we go. We are off from Bitung. We are sailing into Indonesia and on our way to Papua New Guinea and Solomon Islands. We have a pretty long stretch ahead of us. 150 miles to the other side. We're gonna split it in half. There's 2 islands in the middle of the strait, and we're going for the southernmost one, Goreda Island. Our plans are changing and we are going south instead of north, and I'm happy with that. After studying the charts and seeing where we would be going, it looks really, really stunning to go south. So right now we're just motoring against the wind, against the wave, against most things. Current is thankfully on our side. We're going north of Lembeh Island to give ourselves the best possible starting position for our crossing. And the crew is ready. We're all eager to get moving, and yeah, this is looking good. So our first overnight sail, we have 2-meter waves because there's been a big system coming through from the north, and the waves are big, but the wind is okay. Like, the wind has died down, and so we were going for it in the night. The waves were big, but they were gentle, and so we were just cruising down, and suddenly in the middle of the night, I thought it was a bucket that fell down. It sounded like a bucket falling down, and it was just, the sea was a bit rough right there, so it was probably a bucket. I turn around, Paul says, did you hear that? I'm like, yeah, it's probably just a bucket. So I just continue sitting. It's the middle of the night. I'm just keeping myself from falling asleep. And then Paul's finding it hard to steer. Like, it's really hard for him to steer, and he takes out his torch and he lights over to the rudders, and he sees that the rudder on the starboard side is missing. It broke off. Like, the rudder blade just broke off and it's gone. Like, there's no way we're getting that back.
It's 2:10 a.m. We're going about 6 knots, and then a big wave came from port side, and all of a sudden we hear a big crash. over the other rudder.
What happened to this thing? I thought, my thinking is like, we hit the log or, and then the rudder broke.
Oh, I can't believe that. The rudder is gone. It must have been rotten or I don't know. And now completely lost our starboard rudder. Can't really steer very much.
We're just adjusting the mizzen. As the mizzen is kind of like our wind rudder. Thankfully we're going into the wind, and by adjusting the mizzen we're able to manipulate the direction of the boat.
Of course, good.
Woo! What are we doing for
4.5 knots.
4.5 knots? Let's go.
And we continue with one rudder, which is fine. Like, we have one rudder. After I adjusted the sails, we were under control, and I wasn't scared. I was just like confused as to why we lost that rudder. We continue sailing, and I'm fine. Like, we'll fix it. We can make a emergency rudder once we get to the island. And so after my night shift, I go to bed, and the last thing Paul says to me is, "I'll wake you up if the other rudder breaks." I didn't hear him. Yeah, it was just a joke.
Then it was my turn to steer, and I was on shift with Sammy, and he and I heard another huge crack. We went to see, what happened. Can't be the other rudder. And then we saw the red head of the rudder just float away. Oh no, that's bad. And I just lost all steering. Yeah, we woke up Evind. He was almost unbelieving to begin with.
And Naomi is screaming through the hatch, and Sammy is opening my hatch, standing over me, and is like, "The rudder broke, the rudder broke." I'm sleeping, I'm like, "The rudder is broken." I'm like, "Yeah, I know, the rudder is broken." Now both rudders are broken, and we have no rudders. And we're still far away from the island. The dawn is breaking slowly, and we can see the island in the distance, but it's still like a speck, and we're drifting. Like, at this point, we have no steering. And so we have to figure out a way to get to this island.
Up until that point, I hadn't been worried at all. I trust Evind, his abilities to fix stuff and think up plan Bs, and I hadn't been too worried. But then he picked up the radio.
Pan, 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 pan. This is sailing vessel Vaka, sailing vessel Vaka, sailing vessel Vaka. Pan, pan. We have lost all steering. I repeat, we have lost all steering. We are currently 5 miles northwest of Kureda Island. Pan, 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 pan.
I realized that he doesn't have a plan.
No one on the radio here. No way. No ships around.
So we started praying. That was pretty much all we could do at that point. We prayed and ended up using this other strange piece of wood to build an emergency rudder.
This is definitely the situation where you call a pan. For now, we are using the sails, adjusting them, also using the engine. The engine has a little bit of movement, and so we're using the engine to point away from the wind, and we can adjust the throttle up and down to decide how much away from the wind we want to go. Right now, we're headed straight for the island.
So at this point dawn was breaking, and that was a real blessing because we could see the islands we were going to and like weaving in between. So that was a real blessing. The sun just rising at the perfect timing.
Naomi says you should try the rudder one more time. You didn't really try that hard, and so I did. I used the motor again, and I went forward, and it took some time, but slowly we were getting back on course. And so we were able to go back towards the island, and at this point we were stoked, but I knew that we have to cross through a reef to get into safe harbor. And so as we approached the reef, I think through in my mind what we need to do. We need to take down the sails, and we need to adjust the engine because the engine has like a little bit of wiggle room. By using the engine, we can also help steer, but we need to have propulsion because without propulsion, we're just sitting ducks. And so it's us three, me, Paul, and Sammy, and Naomi is sleeping. And we approach the reef and the passage, and as the sails go down, the motor is actually propelling us towards the reef. And I'm just staring through the reef. I didn't even look at the depth sounder. I was just like, okay, we have to go here. I know we have to cross this reef.
We made it. We made it. We're not at anchor yet, but we're in safe haven. And for a moment out there, I was like, what if we don't make it? This is perfect. We're in a really, really protected bay. Beautiful place.
Yeah.
And yeah, this is a good place to rest and get some new paddles made. Let's go.
And we make it into the bay, and it's just this beautiful bay, and we're able to anchor exactly where I wanted to anchor. And yeah, after losing both rudders, after breaking one paddle, and just using this tiny oar, we made it to a safe harbor, and we were able to rest after a really stressful night sail.
When I woke up, we were at anchor outside this village.
How's life on a deserted island where we're stranded?
Oh, we've been out climbing coconut trees, caught a fish with our bare hands, found some wild rice growing in the forest. Hard life.
Looks like a nice meal.
I wanted to build. Just drop me off from the dinghy over there. I'll build my own house. Nice. Make a fire.
We didn't know anything about this place before we arrived, but we were able to get help on the island. No.
Very small oar. But he got us here safely. Got us here safely. This is the hero
Nice.
of the rescue mission of our trip.
Nice.
This one broke. This one didn't.
Paul and I went into the village by tender and in our very limited Indonesian language tried to explain the fact that we were on a boat and we were missionaries and we'd lost both rudders, which is kind of pretty unfortunate. And we needed to speak to someone who spoke English, and there wasn't really anyone. So all the kids just like escorted us through the whole village to the school where we met Mr. Harry. And he spoke English, a teacher. We were able to get to a carpenter who was a little bit skeptical about what it was we wanted and how to do it, because they basically have coconut trees all over the island. Very little other wood, and coconut trees would not be good for the rudders.
They were able to find the one guy who spoke English. We were able to make a drawing of dimensions and everything that we needed for new rudders, and they were able to build it for us. I thought we would have to make makeshift emergency rudders and have someone build new rudders for us somewhere along the way, because I figured building new rudders would take forever. And so in my mind, I was like, maybe they can build it here. But then I quickly warmed up to the idea that why not? Why not just build it here? And so later that same day, we heard a chainsaw in the jungle, and they cut down this tree. Turned out they cut down a teak tree, which is just perfect for boat building purposes. And the carpenter started working right away, like shaping out a rough outline of the rudders. We were able to come back into the village, talk to the carpenter through the interpreter, and kind of tell him how we wanted our rudders. And we came back every day, and we went and visited their church on Sunday.
They only had electricity from 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. So the carpenter would have to work in the night. So he was often sleeping when we arrived in the morning. Yeah, we just loved to see the process of building the rudders, and all the kids around just, they were so fascinated by these strange wooden things and what they were used for.
And after only 4 days, our new rudders were ready. And we were like, whoa, okay, let's go.
Yeah, it was really interesting, but we were so blessed to be in a Christian village, and they were just so friendly. Really, really a God thing. It was such a blessing.
So we took our rudders and we decided that same day, okay, we have to fiberglass these rudders just in case. We don't want it breaking again. And so we take the rudders to the beach, and we take out our fiberglass cloth and our epoxy resin that we had from fixing the bulkhead.
For the kids, they climbed coconut trees and brought us fresh coconuts to drink, and all sat around watching the fiberglassing process.
And we cut the cloth and we put on the rudders. None of us have ever done anything like this before, but it's pretty straightforward. And we're able to epoxy our rudders that same day. And the next day, on day 5, since arriving to the island, we were able to set sail with new rudders, epoxied over. It felt like they were better than before. And we were so happy to keep going with new rudders.
It is so good to finally be on our way again. We had no idea how we were going to get off this island, and we feared we might have to abandon our mission. Now we have 2 brand new rudders and feel more ready than ever to get going. We are amazed by God's faithfulness, all the help we've received from strangers, and the new friends we made in the village. Soon we're going to be crossing the equator and sailing towards some pretty amazing places.